Paul says that believers are predestined and they are called. The Greek word proarizo is translated as predestined, and it means to mark out beforehand. It comes from the preposition pro, meaning before, in front of, and so on, just as it does in the English, and also the verb horizo, meaning to mark off by boundaries or determine. You can see the English word horizon in it. One might think of pre-horizon or predetermined. God has predetermined those who will be saved. But what does that mean? Did God actively choose each before creation, as in, I will make a Charlie Garrett and I will save him? And if this is so, does he then say, I will make a Joseph Stalin and I will condemn him? Or does God say, I will make a path to salvation? This is the predetermined boundary, and any who accept that path will be saved. Or is there some variation between these that God will use to save man? One thing is for sure. Paul says believers are predestined, and so there's no reason to argue if this is true or not. What needs to be established is what that actually means and how it comes about. The importance of why this needs to be known translates directly into the nature of God, His love, His competence, His trustworthiness, and so forth. It also translates directly into what believers need to do in salvation and even after salvation, both in regard to His salvation and in regard to His obligation to others for their salvation. In order to understand at least a small part of predestination and election, we will go over various views on what is involved in them. To do this, we will repeat points which have already been covered in earlier sermons in the books of Moses and in several Bible studies that some of you have already attended or have watched. However, as this is a series on doctrine, the repetition is necessary, and it will hopefully be a good refresher for those of you who have already heard these things before. I'm also going to add in a few things that I have not said in the past before as well. So no napping and sit up straight. Paul's words of Romans 8:29 and 30, which was our text verse, are a result of his statement in 8:28 about all things being worked out for good for those who are the called according to his purpose. Based on this, he says that those whom God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son. Those who are a part of God's plans and purposes will be conformed. It is already done in God's mind. How does this come about? Four main views will be presented: supralapsarianism, infralapsarianism, sublapsarianism, and Wesleyanism. Despite being mentally challenging and a bit complicated, we can simplify the big words for your mind by using easier examples for you to grasp. In the past, I have used ducks in a pond, which then flows into a river. That was so that people wouldn't quack their heads from thinking too hard. Today, we're going to use real people who are stuck in the same dilemma. The wrong views will be explained first, who believes them, and why.